Namaste, welcome to Season 3, Episode 7. We have TT Talks. My name is Suhas, and today we have a special guest.
Gayatri Kumar.
Alright, so Gayatri, what school do you go to and what's your major?
Hi, I go to Georgia Tech and my major is industrial engineering.
And what languages do you speak?
I speak Tamil and English, and I can understand Hindi.
Do you speak Tamil at home?
Yes.
So you're fluent?
Yeah, I can speak, but I can't read or write.
Okay, gotcha. And what part of India are you from?
So I'm originally from Tamil Nadu, but my parents were born and raised in Mumbai. So when I go to India, I go to Mumbai. I don't go to the south.
Oh, gotcha. And are your grandparents also from that area as well?
Yeah, so both on my mom and dad's side, my grandparents moved from Tamil Nadu to Mumbai when they were just before having children, settling down.
Okay. And when was the last time you went to India?
Last time I went to India was this last summer.
Gotcha.
I was there for about 6 weeks.
Gotcha. And so what are some of your hobbies?
Okay, in my free time, I like to read, I like to cook, bake, I like swimming, I like ice skating.
You swim?
I like origami. Yeah.
You can swim? Okay.
I was on swim team in high school.
Oh, okay. Alright, that's okay. Do you play any instruments or anything like that?
Yes, I played the violin. I played for 7 years up till senior year, but then I have not played since college started, but potentially next year I'll join the GT Orchestra.
Alright, so are you involved in any South Asian specific clubs on campus?
South Asian specific, no, but I am a member of Hindu Yuva and I'm on the board for that. And I'm involved in ROT and stuff like that.
Okay, so what does GT Hindu Yuva do specifically?
Okay, so they plan a lot of events throughout the year. So they had a Diwali event, and this semester too, they're starting GBMs. So twice a month, they'll meet and they'll do any activity relating to any festival near that time. So there's actually one today, and it's going to be Pongal focused. So then they're going to have one for Holi and everything like that. And so their job is basically to create a Hindu community on campus and make sure that people can find like-minded individuals and celebrate their
Gotcha. And as
festivals
a whole,
and their more about religion.
Go ahead. Sorry. What were you saying?
No.
Okay.
It's just a place where you can.
Okay. So as a whole, do you think Georgia Tech has a good South Asian student population and representation?
I do think so, yes. They are there are a lot of places where you can go to meet other South Asian people and learn more about your culture and just do things like that. But I will say that there are some areas where you wish there was a bit more representation. For example, the dining halls. Why there can be some more Indian food. And one example, something that really bothers me is that they keep saying that there's paneer dishes, but then it's tofu, right? So just small things like that, it makes me feel like they really don't know what they're doing when they're trying to be more diverse. But in a serious sense, I do think, yes, that there is cultural representation.
Okay, so you don't think that you don't have that opinion where it's just they're not representing, they're just not correctly doing it.
Yes, there is definitely an effort, and that needs to be appreciated.
Okay, gotcha. So outside of college, what else are you involved in?
I've been doing Bharatanatyam, which is classical dance, for the last 13 years. I'm really involved in Chennai Mission. My whole family is involved. I'm not sure you know what that is. Do you know what that is?
What?
Chennai Mission?
I don't know what that is. Can you explain?
Okay, so it's an organization similar to Hindu Yuva. They have Sunday school meetings and everything where kids can go learn about their culture and religion, and then they have different events throughout the year And it's basically just their focus is spreading Vedanta and like helping people around the world learn more about where they're from and like the rich heritage of India. And so I'm really involved with that. Um,
So are the meetings for that at Georgia Tech, or are
there's
they
a,
back
yeah.
home?
There is no chapter for Chinmay Mission at Georgia Tech, so I went through it at home, like in Alpharetta. There's a center in Alpharetta and one in Atlanta as well.
Okay. And then you mentioned how you do Bharatanatyam, or you did Bharatanatyam for a long time. So do you have any like experience or like stories with that?
I've been learning for 13 years, and I've performed in 2 productions, and then like every year there's obviously like the school recitals that they hold. Just overall, it was a really great experience because my school was especially focused on raising money for a bunch of different charities. So for every recital of production we put on, we highlighted one charity that a portion of the proceeds from the tickets would go to, and it would be a variety of things like for the army or like for Goodwill or something like that. And then especially behind that, every single recital that we did had a social message, like a theme.
Okay.
And so the recent one was recycling and taking care of the earth. So it like branched beyond dance.
Okay, so for that, is that like a self-taught thing, or did you have like a coach essentially?
For dance?
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to a studio. I had a teacher.
Okay, gotcha. So have you ever considered joining one of the Indian dance teams at Tech?
I really did consider it, but the thing is that each one of them minimum is like a 13-hour time commitment a week. And I've grown up doing classical for so long, like I just can't imagine doing something like Bolly fusion or anything like that. And I am aware that there is a Bharatanatyam dance team.
Yeah.
It's a very big time commitment, and like along with the clubs I'm in, it just doesn't seem realistic.
Okay, gotcha. And so you were talking about how the dining halls had like they were trying to introduce Indian foods and all that. What are some like changes you'd like to see on Tech's campus regarding increasing South Asian representation in like academics or like social or anything?
In terms of academics, I know that there are many different history classes here, and that they have Asian history. I think they have an African history course, so an Indian history course would be nice to just make people more aware of why things are the way they are in India, and like the background behind that.
Yeah.
In terms of like outside of academics, I don't know, like small things. Like there are a bunch of different food trucks from many different cultures on campus, but you won't really see an Indian one.
Yeah.
So for people that have come from like a rural area or someplace where they don't have much exposure to different cultures, that would be like a pretty easy way to get an introduction to just try the cuisine.
Gotcha.
So yeah.
So you said that you were IE, right? So,
Yeah.
Yeah, so I know a lot of South Asian parents, they have like a stereotype that like their kids have to do something like the STEM fields or like something like that for the future. So did your parents have any impact on you choosing this type of major and career, or is this all completely you?
So originally, for the first semester of college, I was a BME major, biomedical engineering. And then I switched to IE. And the reason I went in as a BME major was largely because of my dad's influence. It was like a very up and coming field, and he was very excited about it, and he like greatly influenced me to be a part of it. So I will say that the expectation that one goes in, like going into STEM is an expectation, and then going into anything other than that is basically an exception. So that was the reason that I went into BME, and IE, you can say, is arguably still STEM, but it's very much a different kind, like more of a business human aspect, and that's not really the expectation. So that's why I didn't originally go with IE.
Okay. So like originally you did feel pressure to choose BME.
Yes.
Okay. And so if we're going to talk about this academic type of thing, do you ever think that maybe like South Asian parents overwhelm their kids with like academics, all that stuff? Like, do you ever like think that that's like a possibility?
Like overwhelm as in like you need to do a bunch of
Like you need to
extracurriculars
like you
and
have
get
to
a
get like top
4.0.
grades. You got to do this. You got to do that. Like, do you ever like do you have any experience or like do you know anyone that have like very like parents like that?
So I would say with my parents, they never really pressured me to get hundreds on everything, but I will say that there is a certain expectation that you have to get all A's, and like any parent will have that expectation. I guess the difference in the severity is what they do and if you don't get the A. My parents usually just like encouraged me to study more, and like if they could see that I wasn't performing well, then they would like take it really seriously and try to give me resources to do better.
Okay.
But other than that, I kind of had relatively more freedom than other families that I know regarding like pressure for my GPA.
Okay, gotcha. And to a more lighthearted topic, do you watch any like Tamil movies or like are you involved in any of that? Like, do you watch them?
So, like I said before, my parents were born and raised in Mumbai. So in my house, we usually play Hindi movies more than we do Tamil. But like one of my favorite movies of all time is like Chandramukhi, which is a Tamil movie. So I will give that industry credit.
And
generally though,
yeah.
I have one thing to say. Generally though, controversial. Some movies are bad compared to Hindi movies.
Really?
It's a fact. Yeah. Bollywood is a much more. It's better. It's just a better industry. Their movies are more realistic and they're not just cliche.
Really?
So, yeah.
I have the complete opposite opinion.
Really?
Yeah. Because I feel like Bollywood movies are like very formulaic. Like you know exactly what's gonna happen, and I feel like Tamil movies are the ones that like are a little bit more experimental.
Like usually the experiment goes wrong.
I mean,
like usually it's bad.
They try.
There's a reason the formula works. Yeah, sure.
And what's your opinion on like new Tamil people? Like I think Danush appearing in like Hollywood movies, Hollywood shows. Like, what's your opinion on that?
I really like it because it makes people aware of like there is an industry outside of Hollywood, and that like I don't know if The Invisible Man, Danush came in that, right?
Yeah.
That's the name of the movie. Yeah, so if someone watched that movie and they saw him and they really liked his acting, they would be more inclined to go see another movie that has him in it, whether it's in Tamil or Hindi, because he's been in both. So it's a great introduction, and it's like almost a Western spotlight on Indian.
Yeah, but
on the Indian film
thought
industry.
of like the perspective where it's just like they just introduce for like that cultural aspect, like they just want to capture some of the audience instead of like actually caring about the movie.
Yeah, so you can argue that for any business that their motivations are purely for profit, but you have to like appreciate the effect of it more.
Okay, gotcha. So like regarding music and everything, is it also like do you not listen to Tamil music that much?
I do not listen to Tamil music. My entire playlist is just Bollywood. That's what I was listening to right before this.
Alright. So can you elaborate actually a little bit on your Vedanta like studies that you were talking about back in Alpharetta? Like I feel like that's a very interesting thing.
You froze, sorry.
Can you talk about your Vedanta, like the study groups and everything?
Oh, okay. So in class, the curriculum for Bollywood, up until like high school, it's more about storytelling. So you learn about. Yeah, Bollywood is under Tamil.
Okay, I know people who've been to that. Okay, continue.
Yeah. So from kindergarten to like 8th grade, it's more about learning about the epics, like the stories. That's more engaging to young children, like Ramayana, Mahabharata, and learning the basics of Hindu culture. But then after that, it's more nuanced. Like you start studying texts like the Bhagavad Gita, so you'll like analyze different verses in the Gita and what they mean and how you can apply those lessons to your everyday life.
Okay.
So it helps kids understand that there's not that big of a bridge between religion and like everyday life and society. Like you can take what you've learned from scripts and apply it to your everyday life. So in the last 2 years, so freshman year and sophomore year, we learned self-unfoldment, which is just by the Swamiji that started Chennai Mission. it's just how to best live your life, like focus and not get tempted by unnecessary. The last 2 years are when you dissect burgers and stuff. And then that's just the kid aspect, like Bolivar. Like the entire mission has different classes for adults as well. So that's where you study like more complex things, like scriptures.
Okay. And so is there like a end of program like event or anything like that? Like how is there like a performance or something, showcase?
Yeah, we had a graduation.
Okay.
And in our graduation, my teacher kind of compared it to a PhD defense where they asked us a bunch of questions. So our parents were basically in the audience and they asked us questions like, what was the most important takeaway you have from Bolivar, your best memory, things that you're going to take and use later on in life. So we answered all those questions basically in the form of a speech, and then we graduated.
Oh, gotcha. And is this just for something like for kids and adults, or is it for college students as well?
Yeah, there is a college student organization. It's called Chinmay Yuva Kendra. They do have chapters in some universities. They just don't have one at Georgia Tech. They have one at Emory. It's pretty active.
Okay.
There's a brahmachari who's currently at Emory from Chinmay Mission that serves as the Hindu chaplain. So like any student that has a question about their religion or something they want to talk about in general about their life, they go to her. Yeah. And sometimes she comes and visits over here. So there is a huge community of college students as well.
Mm-hmm. And what is your opinion on like the other, like, I think you mentioned you're in Arohi. What is Arohi?
Oh, so Arohi is just like a classical music club on campus. They hold performances like singing, instruments, and there's also a dance section. So it's a good place if you are interested in dance and if you've danced for a long time but you don't have the commitment for a team. Yeah. Like you can go there and like do occasional performances. Gotcha. Like it's not competitive, it's more about just like appreciating the art.
Mm-hmm. And what is your position in that?
I'm just a member. Okay. I'm more involved in Jamaica.
All right, and there. So I know that a lot of like Indian festivals are coming up. I think like Sankranti, Pongal, all that. So are you guys organizing any events for any of that?
Yeah, so our GBM today is about Pongal, and then we're gonna have a holy one in March, and we're organizing in our Pongal one we have kite flying and just different craft activities, and then we have one where we're gonna make Sivalingams out of clay. So basically we have an activity that goes with every festival that's nearest to the date of our general body meeting. And then we'll have like occasionally like a huge celebration like we did last semester for Diwali.
So does Georgia Tech fund this, or how do you guys get your money?
Yeah, so we have a couple different sources of money. One comes from the parent fund. Okay. One comes from SGA, which is Student Government Association. And so before every meeting, we basically have to submit a bill for funding, and then they'll get approved, and we have to go to a hearing and like explain why we need the money. And the university, like the Student Fund Organization Funding Office, will give it to us. Yeah. And then we also have like donors.
Okay, gotcha.
So there are no dues.
Okay, so it's just free for everyone, and you guys get the money from like the student budget, basically. Okay. Perfect. Yeah. All right. Do you have anything else to wrap up and like any closing words with anything?
This was fun talking about everything Indian. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and for our listeners, what's one takeaway you want them to learn from you?
I would say to just look for clubs on campus that you can get involved in. Like no one is going to approach you and ask you to be in something. You have to actively look for communities that you want to join.
Okay. Perfect. All right. Thank you so much for the talk.